night. Good night, all YouTube fans. Good night, people. Good night, everyone, wherever you are. If you are in Australia, let me say good morning. If you are in the UK, let me say good morning as well. It's a pleasure being here with you another night. And of course, tonight is Wednesday night, customary, our educational content, I should say. Ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time joining us, a special welcome to you. And I hope you will have a fun fill and an educational and information night tonight. We have a special guest tonight, and I'm sure that you are looking forward to hearing from him. And of course, when you look at what we are about to carry our topic tonight, it I must say to you, we are not in a religious night. It's an educational, but of course, without the aspect of religion, where we are coming from. And of course, the church played a very important role, have played an important role over the years in piloting our educational system. As you know, people, the church is basically, or the church has a lot of schools here in Jamaica, and they manage them as well. So it is just fitting for us to know the roles of the church. And of course, our guest is backstage, and I'm sure that he's ready to join me. And I want you to give him a warm welcome as we hear and see the Reverend Luke Shaw. Good night and welcome to the Saudi Crest Show, sir.
Good night. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm telling you, loud and clear. It's very. I'm telling. I am not sure if you would have seen the Reverend Luke Nathaniel Shaw. I got it right on YouTube and these shows, but I hope this is the first one and will not be the last.
Well, I hope not. I hope not.
Okay, sir. I was just trying to highlight the church and the role the church has played in education over the years. But before we do so, Rev, on this show, it's sort of different, and I don't like the fact to introduce my guests because I always have some very interesting and unique guests, and I don't want to leave off anything outside of what is important, especially a man of your stature who wear many hats. So I'd just like you, in short, Rev, just to introduce yourselves to the YouTube family and to all of us, wherever they are, watching and listening this show tonight.
Well, I usually don't like to introduce myself, because I don't like to say a lot about myself. But I can simply say that I am married to one wife with two adult children, Andrew and Zena. And also, I'm pastor of the Linstead, Buxton Town Circuit of Baptist Churches currently. I've served as a past president of the Jamaica Baptist Union, and I've been very much involved in school in terms of sitting on boards. I was chairman of Claude McKay High School, sit on a number of sit on Calabar High School board, sit on a number of primary schools and prep school boards. Also, currently serve as chaplain at GC Foster College of Physical Education and Sport. I'm chaplain also of Bob Walk of Enid Bennett High School, and you know regular speaker at the graduations, devotions in most of the high schools are in the Linstead community. So I just say that in terms of education, I'm one who believes that the church should be involved in education. And just in case, I also served in Panama for a while. So, bienvenido a todos quien están en este momento. For those who want a little tongues, but served in Panama for a while before coming to Linstead to serve. So that's a little bit about myself.
Rev, it's so fitting that you're also involved in the GC Foster College of Sports and Education, and this channel is all about sports, entertainment, and education.
Right.
I'm sure that we'll have a lot of content to cover tonight. I mean, we don't want to stray from our main topic, but of course, there are just some basic questions I want to get through, information as it relates to you, Rev. Have you ever taught before any formal teaching?
I did guidance and counseling for a short while, but after a few classes, I realized that that was not for me. The classroom was not for me. I taught a little bit of musical, though I don't sing. So, but I was in the classroom for a very short while, but realized that's a gift for people like yourself.
No, it's strange to me though, Rev, a reverend who have counseling experience and really found that the classroom is not for him. This is rather strange to me. What could
Well,
have actually drive you from the classroom or drove you from the classroom, Rev?
oh, everybody have their gifts, and every gift has its, and every profession has its own peculiarities. I am a pastor, not a teacher. Um, teaching comes with, as an educator, there are certain things you lesson plans and um, classroom behavior and management and all of those things. I better do what I do as a pastor more than as a teacher. If you ask me to come in and counsel, I will do that. But the regular 9 to 5 classroom, I am not that. I don't have that kind of patience.
Rev, a very young man. I'm not sure if he's older than I am.
I don't
And
know. You tell me.
but guess what? The fans or the viewers will judge and make their own assumption.
All I can tell you that West Indies would do very well with my score, with my score, which would be like near to 60.
So the batters will do well with your age.
Yes, yes, just shy of 60 by 2 years.
Oh my, very good, very good. I'll be there very shortly, Rev. I
All
know I
right.
won't catch you, but I'm coming. Rev, how long have you been an ordained minister?
For 29 years. The 6th of October will make 29 years. And every time I talk about the 6th of October, it brings, it is of special emphasis to me because as Baptists, we've been very much involved in education in this country. At the heart of our movement, we were one of the few denominations that started in Jamaica and have not received much external help. And in the 6th of October, 1843, the Jamaica Baptist Union established a college in Rabuena and Trelawney to produce native, that is, black preachers and educators, teachers for Jamaica. So that day is very significant for me. 6th of October will be 29 years.
I must ask you though, who, what or who inspired you to be a minister?
It could be nobody but God and the Spirit of God. I wanted to be many things, including being a medical doctor. I wanted to be a medical missionary because I like helping people. And
Good.
I thought that would have been the ideal thing. But God closed those doors. And just like that, I mean, one night my pastor's wife said, "Have you ever considered going into the ministry?" And that was furthest from my mind, not on my agenda. But that night, I couldn't sleep and wrestled with it. And God spoke to me, and that's where it all started.
Very good. That's so nice. Well, those are our preliminary rev, and let's get to the business at hand. You
Yeah.
know, today or presently, or there are so many challenges in our education system here in Jamaica. And I'm sure if we continue on this note, we might end up talking a little politics based on
Mhm.
how things are. We're not going there. But the fact is, the education sector, we have challenges in many different ways. And I believe the church in general played a very important role over the years in guiding the way forward in terms of how do we educate our young minds. But what is the role? What is really the role of the church in education in Jamaica, in your
Mhm.
view?
All right. I will go back to my Baptist roots because, as I said, we've been very steeply rooted in Baptist, the history of Jamaica. You cannot talk about the history of Jamaica without the involvement of the Jamaica Baptist Union. In We have been involved in education as a union over the years. We currently have about over 300 and odd primary schools, which are church related.
Wow.
And that has to do with the history of Jamaica. As you would have known, after emancipation, the slaves, the freed people, I don't call them slaves, the freed people were still not free. So in 1838, up to from they still had to be working on the plantations. So they were not free, no independence. So if you notice, a lot of our older Baptist churches are way up in the hills in some way out places. The reason for this was that because the colonial people owned the properties on the flat. So you see Linstead area, you notice the valleys, who owns them. You notice St. Thomas, you go all over. The plantation, so what the Baptists did was to establish what we call these free villages, where they would buy land for the people, which was mainly available in the hills. And that is how many of the churches became associated with schools, because they would distribute the land which they bought among the people, and give them power to vote, because if you didn't have land, you couldn't vote. And so that was a way of helping people to empower the freed people. So the churches worked closely, the church and school work. The church building was actually the schoolroom. It became the political and economic center for most of the communities. So I begin there by saying that we've always been involved in education, because we believe education sets people free, it liberates people. And once you keep people in darkness, it's not just reading and writing, but empowering them to make decisions and to contribute to the political and economic process. So we've always been involved in that, and that has influenced my commitment here in Linstead, at Linstead Baptist, along with the members of the congregation, Linstead and Buxton, to continue this tradition of involvement in education. For it makes a great difference in liberating people.
Rev, it is so real, and I'm saying this to say because what's on my mind right now, what I really want to talk about, is the Linstead Baptist Church, really, the impact it has on education, especially in and around the Linstead area, so to speak. I know you have spread your wings very far. Let me say this to the people out there. 2 weeks ago, I was in church and I watched your presentation, Rev. I listened carefully. And when I really looked at what the Lindsay Baptist Church has done, how it opened up its doors to the youngsters in and around, I strongly believe that it seems like you're an arm of the Ministry of Education right now in Jamaica. No, I was amazed. I am not surprised, to be honest, but I was amazed with the number of projects that the Lindsay Baptist Church undertake over the years, and you continue to do so. Let me ask you, Rev, what are the challenges you faced in putting across these projects? Or maybe you want to highlight some of the projects first before you give us the challenges.
Well, I would start with the projects before we highlight challenges, because with every challenge comes opportunity. So we for years, over 30 years, the Linstead Baptist Church, even before I came, started an evening institute where persons could come in and learn to read free of cost. Free of cost, to do CXC subjects, and at the time possibly GC. Now, what happened is that volunteer teachers from the church, because we are blessed with a lot of educators and healthcare personnel, and I
Right.
believe when you have resources, you must utilize them.
That
So they
is
would volunteer, and they would teach in the evenings, mainly adults. So we had at one point the largest lifelong learning class. They used to call it Jamal in St. Catherine, and many persons would come. You'd have taxi drivers who come. People drive BMW and park up there, and nobody knows because we didn't make it look as if though they couldn't read. They would come and mix with the CXC people, so nobody know who is who.
true.
And so they would come, and we didn't have space in terms of a classroom, but what we would do is put the blackboards between the benches, and they sit on the benches. And we moved to a place where we got some chairs, and right at the church we converted them into classroom chairs. We got a welder to come and put on a table on them, and so if you come to the church now, you'll see those chairs there. During
Yes.
the week they are turned into a classroom, and on Sundays they are turned another direction for worshipers. So we turn the challenges into opportunities. And over the years, numerous persons have been helped. We've had persons who have come without any subject at all. And in one sitting, they've been able to sit and pass 8 subjects. They go on to university. We offer scholarships at different levels to assist persons. So, and since we partner with high school in the area. So since we don't have the physical facility, so I'm mixing up the challenges and how we
Yes.
overcame
No
them.
problem.
um, we would partner with a particular high school. So when it's time for the exams to be, they would sit the exams, they would go there and sit, but the results would come to us and so on, and we distribute them and so on. And number of persons can testify of the benefits of coming to those classes. So if you want me to go on, I could say, no, we've graduated to heart. So heart, again, it's free. um, so we're one of the satellite places for heart for persons to do CXC. You come, you register. The registration is might be closed now because we are oversubscribed in terms of space, but
Right.
it's free. So you come in, and all you have to do is register, and it's free. And again, we have a number of persons, and it's done both online and face to face.
Hold on, Rick. Hold on. So you're saying to us that all the classes, including the C6 subjects, are
Yes, free.
the fact. I'm sure the last time I heard for one subject at the C6 level, it's the last time I remember. I think it was $1,600 per subject. I don't know what it is now.
Well, they don't have to pay for the tuition and all of that, and they are free. So Heart pays, and they would, when it's time for them to pay for their exams, then they'll be able to do that. But then the money they would have to spend, even on transportation,
Right.
they don't have that to pay.
All right. Very good. So you have moved now from CSEC, and I know the heart NSTA training opportunities.
Right.
What are the different offers? What are the different skills area do you offer at Linstead Baptist Church?
Well, we currently offer subjects like human and social biology, social studies, maths, English, about 8 subjects, IT, and so on. At one point, we had what you call Spanish as well. I taught Spanish one year, and I got 50% pass. I'd have gotten 100, but everybody didn't take the exam. Um,
Gracias.
but we also had vocational training where they would come to church and learn the skills in like home economics and so on. But they would link with the community center over in Rose Hall. So we had persons being trained in skill areas, IT, and other areas, you know. But right now we're just sticking to the straight subject areas. Mm.
You know, we talk about education so many times, and we look at just the teaching and learning in schools. but some of the programs that you and are the projects that you have implemented, Rev, we see where you take care of the community at large.
Yes.
Enlighten us on some of those projects.
All right. But just to say a little bit more in education, because we believe that church, many students learn to read from church. So we are both involved in the academics and Christian education, not indoctrinating people, but we start with the children. So many children now are not exposed to, the spiritual aspect in education. So what we do, we have what we call a junior Sunday school. That's where we start with them, and it helps in developing social skills. So that's education in itself. Interacting with the others, they learn about God, they learn about the Bible, they learn about their world around them. We also have a Bible quiz competition, and it is set up just like TVJ Schools Challenge Quiz, and this is entirely sponsored by the church. Um, we have the various church schools and other schools. Again, I mentioned the church schools, even though many of these schools may not be on a church compound, they are still considered church schools. And many persons don't realize that until they are de-gazetted, they are still church schools recognized by the ministry. So we try to utilize this connection in helping the children. So we have annual Bible quiz competition, which has been going on for near 30 years now. And it's always an exciting one. This year we had 14 schools registered, 13 participated, and they have prizes just like TVJ,
Yes.
buzzers and everything. So
Yes.
wonderful teachers, and the whole church is filled. So that's another aspect of education. But going on to, we believe that we follow the practice of Jesus. That salvation is about how people eat, how people sleep, how they walk, how they drink. Those are the things by which we'll be judged. We can have a big fat church with a big fat bank account, but we don't entertain that.
True.
Anything that comes in goes out to serve the community, and you don't have to be a member. So some of the projects we have what we call a feeding ministry, where we feed people 3 times per week: Tuesdays, Thursdays, um, and Saturdays. They get a cooked meal, and they come. We used to distribute to those on the street, but now they come in the mentally ill, and they sit in a dignified way, and their food is shared um, every 3 times a week. We pray with them, we talk with them, and it doesn't matter who, there's no discrimination. We also distribute food to the homebound, and
Sure.
we have food packages which we give out to members and non-members with basic food items. When we discovered during COVID how many persons were hungry, so we didn't close church during COVID. The building itself and people were not there, but we were serving people, distributing food. We get assistance from Food for the Poor as well, and we distribute the food. And that one woman was actually the family. What she was doing is that the children were hungry, and she put rock stone in the pot to boil to
Wow.
make them go to sleep right here in Linstead because there was no food. And there are many persons around looking like they are okay, but they are
They're
hungry.
not.
They're not. So that's one of the ways. I could go on if you want me to talk about health fear and other things.
We'll get there.
All
And
right.
that's why I moved across earlier to mention of the projects, because education, if a child or an individual is not properly fed, it is very difficult for him or her to learn.
Yeah. Hmm.
So all these projects would have combined to assist with the educational need of the
Exactly.
children or
Hmm.
the persons there.
Yeah.
Again, as I said, I don't want, I never wanted to go into politics, but you mentioned something about what the Baptist Union, you guide the political arm to, because you actually host them for meetings and so on. Of course, church was in politics based on my readings in the past. But the politics I'm talking about here, you get over 300 primary schools and you continue to own the schools. But how much resources does the Baptist Union put in these schools?
Well, They, as I said, they are what we call government leased schools. So we don't actually own them 100%, just because they are gazetted. But like those that we own, like Calabar High School, William Nib High School, um, and we are in a trust relationship with Westwood High School.
Oh,
Yeah, with Westwood High School as well. That's about three denominations: Baptist, Methodist, and I think another denomination. No, some of the primary schools they are actually on the church property. You know, the church property. So when we say we have over 300, it's through the association with the ministry. But we put a lot of resources into them. The boards, the school boards for these Baptist schools, the chairpersons are selected by the church, not the ministry. So that is one of that we can have a direct input. We can have a direct input on the what happens in the school, the spiritual life. We are not saying it's 100%, but like Calabar, we have the old boys who contribute a lot to the development of these schools. We ensure that the spiritual life, values, and attitudes, because of our direct involvement,
yes.
values and attitudes and so on are passed on. So financially, we may not have a lot to pump in, but materially and in terms of values, attitudes, which add to education, you cannot put a value or a money figure on that. You know, so certain things we try to ensure that our schools are not, you know, moving away from basic values, attitudes, and traditions, which has helped us in the past.
Rev, I can't help it, but since I actually on this show doing these things, it seems like I'm a journalist, a very young and inexperienced one as well. And sometimes we ask some questions that are, it may not be so comforting, but it's with you. The politics of the schools, Rev.
Mhm.
How is there a challenge? Let's say for a person who is a Catholic or an Adventist, Seventh-day
Mhm.
Adventist church, to be a leader of one of these schools. Most times, what I have seen, I'm not saying that it happens every time,
Mhm.
is that, for example, the Baptist church, there are members of the Baptist or those who align with the Baptist church would have actually gotten these top jobs.
Well, I know for some denominations, because the schools are owned, they put their stamp on it in that the principals, because you see, as I spoke about maintaining values and so on, um, so the Catholics, Anglicans, and other denominations, you have to have a represent, because as I said, the ministry does not choose the chairperson of those boards. So they
Yes.
will always have a representative. And when it comes um, to the principals and so on, as far as it's possible, they seek to ensure that those who are qualified among them will represent the church in the school. As Baptists, we are not so stringent. We ensure that the best person who we believe will uphold the values, the spiritual values, and social values and norms, who is interviewed will get the job. So we have had many of our schools principals who are not Baptists. There could be some the Adventists. There could be, as long as you are the best person for the job. While we would want to have our own, we do not practice that, you know, so much of that. And
Okay.
I don't blame other denominations who stand firm, because in a Seventh-day Adventist, you're not going to find somebody from outside. They own the school.
That is true. So true. So, the values and attitudes, principles of the Baptist church and probably other denominations. Or if what's happening in our education system now, and especially as how people view religion And I've seen where, for example, devotional exercise, there is a debate of having devotional exercise in schools, or the way
Right.
we look at religion. What's the
Yeah.
Baptist Union position on that?
Well, as I said, in all our schools we have devotions. That's why I said you have to have um, the church represented in the school if it belongs to a church. But for us, as I said, we have always been involved in liberation. We do not use devotions as a means of indoctrination. We use it as a means of empowerment. Fortunately, we have not had any great resistance, whether Baptist or non-Baptist schools. I have do devotions in a number of schools, and I can tell you, sometimes you just go and do a speech, and they want you to come back. That, and I'm grateful for those things. That the door is still open. But what I learned is that these devotions, and I don't believe we should use them as a means of indoctrinating, and like you have in another church service, but you should use it to empower people, to enable them to understand and appreciate spiritual, moral values and norms, which are reflected in Jesus Christ. And I've seen where this has been very helpful. So, if you take out devotions from schools, we head down a very slippery slope. It helps with this discipline. It helps with socialization. When children learn to stand and be patient and be quiet, it helps in socialization. So it's not just a matter of going there and preaching and singing, but it also has other values which I think are very important in the whole process of education, in helping people to learn. Living in a very fast-paced society where everything happens quickly, you learn to do even high schools and tertiary institutions. When I go to them, Jamaica is very unique. You couldn't go to Trinidad or Guyana and have a devotion in school the way we do it here in Jamaica. You know why?
No.
Because of the ethnic makeup.
Oh, right.
When we say in Jamaica, out of many, one people, we really have to give thanks for it. But in Trinidad, Guyana, you have very divided, and you talk about politics. It affects who is appointed in where, depending on who you're voting for. Because you have the Muslim, you have the Hindus, you have the Afro Trinidadians and Guyanese and different groups, which are very distinct. So you couldn't just go into a school and preach Jesus or go into another one. So some of the freedoms and opportunities we have here, we should appreciate them and give thanks for them. Yeah.
So true, so true. Let me take the time out to um, acknowledge a few people in the chat. So Monique, he's saying big up, awesome Rev Shaw. All right, thank you, Monique. Dallas Harris, big up, sir, the Blessings family. All right, Mr. Dallas Harris. And we also have Maureen Byfield, education and other outreach programs, aspects of the mission of the church, Linstead Baptist, filling the gaps. So through. Persons, a number of you actually watching, and if you want to participate, if you have not yet subscribed, maybe that's the reason you're unable to type in the chat. So you could just hit the subscription, just hit the subscribe button, and you'll be able, after a few minutes, you'll be able to comment live and we can participate, that interaction. I want you to participate and of course to have an interaction show. So please go ahead and subscribe so you can be a
But
part of this wonderful show. Yes, Ref.
you talk about the politics. I mean, I love to, I believe one of the things with the church is that we should play a prophetic role. That is to speak truth to power. One of the things I find that affects progress of school is school boards and how they are elected. You know that from most schools, it's the MP um,
Has the power to elect board chair.
who elect. And so you may find you have a good chairperson, and one party comes in and they change and put in somebody and who the school never sees.
So true.
Never sees. Because of their location, they cannot make an impact on the schools. And I believe schools boards are to manage the schools. And if you just put a person there for political allegiance, it's just like if you put a person there just because they are for the church, but they are not qualified. I have a problem with that. And if schools are to be better run, we need strong boards. Some of our boards that don't even reach the chair, they never sit. And I have to talk about it because I believe that if we are serious about education, then we must choose serious person. If you have your representative, that person must be serious about their role in helping to develop. So, you know, I am not saying how it might be changed, but I'm saying if you're going to choose somebody who will represent education and not just party or political allegiance. And it happens on both sides of the fence. You know, I think we must put education first. And a lot of football is happening in our schools with some of these things with boards and choosing of boards and all of these things.
It is serious, Rev. It is a serious factor. And while I agree with you 100%, and I'm not batting that they should take away that power, so to speak,
No,
from,
in no way.
but there should be guidelines. There should be guidelines that the MP must follow in order to select particular members for school boards.
Yeah, you know.
Sometimes, and I hope I don't affect anyone with what I'll be saying now, but there are a lot of times that you have heard and seen persons of quote unquote questionable characters aligned with schools. I'm not saying that they are board chairs and so on. I've seen where persons represented school boards can't even speak.
Well, I won't go
I'm not
there,
saying,
but I've seen
no,
it.
I'm not saying that they must speak, to the highest level, but they're unable
Even to
to
conduct a
represent
meeting,
schools.
even to conduct a meeting.
Exactly. And it is serious. Sometimes we tend to shy away to talk these things, Rev. And I know that you're not afraid to talk. And this is not what we're here for tonight, but it's the reality. So in terms of that, I'm saying to the powers that be, we ought to get serious guidelines of how these persons are selected for
Yeah.
boards.
No, man,
Those are
we can do a lot more with our schools and education if we are serious. If you have serious boards working with serious educators and administrators. But a lot of football is going around and it's not helping us.
so true. I believe the church will have to take the forerunner, whether it's the Baptist church or whoever
Well,
church.
that's why I'm talking. We are a church of resistance. Paul Bogle was a Baptist. Sam Sharp was a Baptist. George William Gordon was a Baptist. And I know Nanny might have had a little Baptist in her too.
So
I
Nani
think
had
we've been too silent on some things. There was a time, when the church had representatives sitting in parliament so that we could listen and go back and report to our denominations as to what decisions are made. The church has the authority to sit in our parish council meetings. Although I went to one and I tell you, I don't know if I could go back. Because before we even reach the welcome, the amount of quarrel
cross cross
and all
words
kind
and
of things going on, you don't want to waste that time. But we appreciate our counselors, in saying that because it's a lot of work. But the church should be able to educate people. So we're talking about education. We at Linstead try to also educate the people in terms of their rights. So from time to time, we'll have personnel from the legal fraternity, the police, and others coming in to educate us.
yes.
Like I would like to raise an issue now: is the one way in Linstead legal? We must educate people. Is it legal?
Well, I'm unable to answer that really, but looking at it as a person who drives, maybe. But what about those who don't? Is
For,
there a
for,
legal or
for a
illegal
change
fact?
to take place, we must know the laws. Was it gazetted? Was a public meeting held where it was explained to the people? Where are the signs? Who is in charge? So these are the questions. We must educate our people. It's not putting down the thing, but do you know that if even the new bus highway in the boulevard there,
Which one?
before it was gazetted, if you were in the bus lane and a policeman gave you a ticket, it was not valid because it was not passed in law, even though the marking is there.
Bus lane. Oh,
Yeah. And sometimes the police themselves don't know.
no, that's true.
So I'm saying, was this gazetted? Was the one way gazetted? Was a law passed to say that it is so? We have to
Serious
educate
questions,
people.
bro.
And the
Serious
church must play
questions.
its role because innocent people who don't know. So if these, we mustn't take slightly these the SOEs and the laws and so. So when you hear people talking, we're not being political. It's about justice. And as a Baptist, we stand up for justice. So when you arrest a person for, and the law says you mustn't keep them over 72 hours, and you arrest them on Friday because you know they're not going to be released
Get bail until Monday.
until Monday, it is illegal unless there's a law in place. And a lot of innocent people are being hurt. So we have a broader picture of education, you know. So we're talking politics now. We must get political. We are political beings. So
Well,
I
I'm
no party, I represent Jesus Christ. And if one party messing, we must educate people. If another is messing, if they're doing good, we lift them up.
and Rev, thinking about that, and trust me, I've listened to you a while ago, and I realize how much sense this makes. And this is a part of education or a lack thereof for our people to look at it. Sometimes we heard in the parliament and so on, God knows when each side throwing words and all sort of things at each other for what they believe should have brought to the people before a decision is made. But yet still they just argue about it. There's nothing serious. It was just for that moment.
Mm.
It was just for that moment. So, we are dear people. And as I said before, please subscribe and come in. I want you to interact with us. I'm sure that Rev would love to see. I'm sure that many of the persons who are here tonight probably is from the Baptist Church in Linstead are probably new now. I know that I have other fans here, which are good. Now, Rev, we continue on the education. You have
Mm.
a back to school fair every year at Linstead Baptist Church. Speak to us about that.
Okay. Again, we talk about salvation. Everything we do is grounded in our understanding of salvation. In Jamaica, we have a saying, say everybody must eat a food. And you would not realize the struggle people have, the stress parents and students have just to go to school. I am a personal testimony of the struggle just to find lunch money. You spoke about hungry earlier. When you're hungry and gas take you up and you can't see and you can't walk.
That's true.
And there were days when I had to walk 12 miles from school. Didn't have bus fare. I would pick up bottles to those days when they had the D&G glass bottles. I
Mhm.
became an inspector of bottle police during break time, and a bottle that was caught loitering in a garbage bin was arrested and handed over for a fine. And I
True.
would get bus fare to go to school in the morning and sometimes just walk home. Now, when you go through those experiences and people come to you and they say they don't have it and they're hungry and so on, you can't just tell them you'll pray for them. Again, I said the church has to play its role in helping to empower people. So, what we do every year, every August, we have a back to school fair. And again, this is sponsored by the church. Well, we have to give thanks that there are external people who come in, but the financially, we mainly sponsor it. So, what we do, we have what we call a flower show in November. So, those who are listening and you support us this November, that flower show is held to raise funds to sponsor the back to school fair in August. So you still will start working from September.
Yes.
So the members would grow flowers at their homes and whatever, prepare them, and then we have the back to school, the flower show. The funds from that designated for the back to school fair, which is held on the second weekend of August every year, where you have uniforms being given out free, you have different services. You have medical doctors present, dental. Um, like for the dental, they'd pay a minimal fee. This year, we had over 115 persons being served by the dentist. We had to turn away people for medical. You know, the medical is free. Doctors give their services free. We have books, packages, and even an adult in a tertiary institution told me how helpful that little package was. Just a little package with a book, probably some drive and some little things, we would probably take for granted, but it means a lot for them. So we give them to the primary, tertiary levels. And last year during the COVID, we still did it, and we sent out the packages to different schools. So we have like the book, the book, like songsters and so from time to time they will come on spot, and people will get the books at a much reduced price. We have RGD, TRN, a one-stop shop, which many people find helpful, even passport, Pika sometimes. And outside of that, we have regular. Well, I can talk about that after. But the back to school fair is
Yes.
one of the big things that we sponsor every year.
Brett, almost every community you enter this year, well, over the past couple of years, at that point during the summer, there's at least one back to school fair. And sometimes, I'm gonna say this, yes, sometimes the back to school fair that you have seen is really minimal. And persons use it as a way to um, extend themselves, or not just that, for popularity too. But what I've seen with the Linstead Baptist Church, you go right across the board. There's no prejudice as it relates to the level of education or the level of schooling that you support. As you mentioned,
Everybody,
in the tertiary.
parents, right across the board. Mhm.
So I'm asking you this now, Rev, and I'm gonna ask now because you're coming from CSEC, literacy, right up to Hearts and STA. You're at the back to school fair. What is the feedback? How many persons have returned outside of the church itself, outside of those who are members of the church? How many persons have returned to give back based on what they receive from these projects?
Is is
Maybe
is
you don't
who,
have to give
who's
me numbers, but
all right? Is who sing don't do it for the likes, the love, chronics,
yes, chronics.
right? We don't do it for the numbers. We do it for the community. So we would not get a lot of feedback, like the 10 lepers who were healed, one came back. If one come back, we give thanks. But our joy is seeing the faces of these people when they come in. You people line up when we have back to school fair or health fair from early in the morning, and we feed them. We give them soup when they come and for these things. Yeah, because like Jesus, they're out there. A man hungry, sitting waiting. But I remember one case. It's the thanks is in the success that you see out there. So while they may not come back and say thank you, we have them all over the world and we see them successful. I was sharing earlier on in our Bible study we had. One person shared that she didn't pass any subject in high school, not even one. And somebody told her about the Evening Institute at Linstead Baptist. And she didn't want to go, but she spoke with Sister Anderson, who has over the years spearheaded it. And she said, come on. And she did it free. And at her first sitting, she passed 8 subjects. She was able to go on to do her bachelor's and her master's in leadership and management at UTech. And is doing further studies now as principal, two schools. There was one young lady who was not a member, and she came similarly, not having any subjects, passed, and went to while she came to share her testimony of how she passed. And while she was sharing it in church, she shared that she didn't have a job. And right away, a member got a job for her. And do you know, and that was years ago, for her first paycheck, she gave $10,000 to the church in
Wonderful.
gratitude. Not a member.
Wonderful. And that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. For example, I'm sure that member you're talking about would have moved on to higher heights. They are now a part of the church. So at least they come and assist with something.
Right.
It
You know,
doesn't necessarily have to be cash in return, but
right.
come back to help to, assist with a class, managing a class.
And
That
to
part of
show you
it.
how we don't discriminate, we have teachers who teach who are of different denominations, whether Seventh Day, whether Jehovah's Witnesses, we don't discriminate. It's education, right? Education should not discriminate. It's for
Again,
everybody.
are you saying to Jamaica and the world that in your Baptist class, you have different teachers from different denominations who
Exactly.
came?
It's teaching we're talking about. It's education. It's not denomination. It's liberation and empowerment of the human being. And we cannot let, if we don't have the resources and somebody else has them, why are we going to discriminate? That's how we see it. That's how we see it.
I'm telling you, sir, you and Lindsay Baptist Church must have been doing something special because the persons who I know from different denominations, especially, and forgive me, people, and I'll ask God for forgiveness. Some of these denominations would not even look to another church or another denomination. I know persons in the Adventist church would have never go to a Sunday church for no reason at all.
You know, well, we don't discriminate and we don't label anybody and say we're looking at education. So even in sports, your thing is sports, entertainment, and education. Every year we invite the footballers in the area just to talk to them and pray with them, because to show them so we are part of a community and we want, if one school does well, all of us are proud. So, I mean, we have to split the difference because I know we have different educators in the congregation from different school and everybody want to win. But in the end, if education wins, everybody wins.
Exactly. That's really strong point there, Rev. Really strong point. Again, people, Marina, place your words on it, your chat on the screen. But let me read it. I believe that a school board chairman should be at least functionally literate and have knowledge about the school's function, yes, so they can make wise decisions. Of course. And there are a lot of persons who probably started out with little knowledge, but if they are willing, they will be able to learn along the way and make good decisions. RR, I found out that you are very late for class these days. Blessings, RR. Respect. So, Rev, still have a few. I don't want to keep you long. I know you're tired. We're almost an hour in.
Man, we're talking about progress.
I tell you. But this is so much that the people of Jamaica and the wider world, those who are in the US and so we say that we're diaspora, right? They
Yeah.
need to know. They need to know. But there are other projects. There are other projects. And I said to you people, what I have heard and seen from the presentation a few weeks back, I was really amazed. And I would love Rev to continue to give us some more information of these projects that the Linstead Baptist Church has been doing for the umpteen years and continue to look into the future based on what you see. So continue
Well,
as
we have, I don't know if I mentioned it, but we have an annual health fair. Well, since you are drinking, let me drink too.
yes, man, take a sip.
Yes, annual health fair. Again, we say that the church. must minister to the total being of a human. And salvation is not just about baptizing people, but it's about liberating and empowering. That's the way Jesus did it. And he did not discriminate. So the health fair is held usually in March every year. And we serve at least 250 persons each year. And it relates to education
Yes.
because we have a full house. You'll have some services are free, some are paid for. So you'll have like RGD, PICA, TRN. We have talks to educate people. We have mental health. You know, mental health is a big thing now. So we have a psychiatrist who comes every year and talks about mental health. We have mammogram, pap smears, ECG, dental, cleaning, and all of these things, medical, a full service. Again, we get, though we sponsor it, we get external support from doctors, dentists, and so on, who will come in and offer their services free. But the educational aspect comes in helping people to understand how to take care of their health, and so on, and their well-being. We also talk to
That's
people about preparing their wills, preparing for death. We must educate people. This lack of education has led to a lot of stress. That when people die, you didn't leave a will, you don't, some basic things. So, you know, we have to help people to understand and manage life. So this is another thing that we spend time. We have legal services as well at these health fairs.
yes.
And we get a lot of people coming. Outside of the health fair, we also have offer the services of the building free of cost. If the agencies want to give a contribution, they do. But we do not stop it. PICA, Passport Office,
Yes.
Immigration Services. If you see when they come there, people come before they and line up. You remember those early days when you used to line up for
Yes,
visa?
I have visited there.
All right. And people come from Portmore and Kingston because it's easier to get through here and it's a one-stop shop. You can pay you as long as you have all your documents, and then they go and collect their documents in
Documents.
their passport in Kingston. We don't collect it, but everything is done there. We have LAMP where we offer the building for persons to come and adjudication for titles and so on. And they can come in an environment where it's private and so on. We have, I mentioned RGD as well. So from time to time, they come and offer their services, and it saves people time and money. Because why we have all this building and it's locked up 7 days a week? Our building, though you may not see it, it's open 7 days a week, 7 days a week, serving people. We also have counseling services free of cost. And this is one of the areas that a lot of people get help from. Premarital counseling, marital counseling, general counseling, anything. We have trained counselors, professionals there, and the services are free. People often come and ask how much we pay. We don't charge. We're not a profit making body. There may come a time when, because of the volume, we may have to, a minimal fee. But right now, the services are free. Dedication of babies, free. We counsel people before we dedicate the babies. That's education. So it don't matter whether you're a Christian or not. We don't counsel you to indoctrinate you, but to help you to manage life, and talk to people how they can prepare for their child's future and education. So these are some of the wider things we do beyond the pulpit in helping to educate people and prepare them for life. You know.
Massive, massive, massive rev. The counseling sessions and so on. Are those sessions daily or there are specific days of the week?
Well, they are done by appointment, so you can come any day between 9 to 4:30. You can call the church office and make an appointment. Sometimes people walk in. If I'm there and people walk in, then we do it. But they are daily by appointment and based on the availability of the counselors. We've had the court sending people
To
from
counsel?
the court. to the church for mediation, and we are able to discuss with them and send back a report, and it saves time and money in the court.
Oh,
I'm a certified government mediator. I Because of business, I'm not much involved, but I also want to put this out there that those who have cases going on a long time in the courts, mediation is a way to deal with it. I've seen from the few I've done where people with cases for court long time, they come and within a few hours they are able to sort out things, make an agreement, and that agreement, when they make it, is legal and binding. If one person breaks it, then they can go be arrested. But
okay.
that's, there is a format for that. But I say, we hope one day that our space will be available for a community mediation center, because I think this is one of the ways that helps to deal with crime and violence and the backlog in the courts.
Rev, I'm trying to, if I spell right here. All right, give me the phone number, Rev.
The,
Just
the,
the office number. I'll put
the
it right.
phone number for the church is
Yes,
903
yes.
0544. And let me give you the cell number, which more people call on, and also WhatsApp. That's 5876
Mm-hmm.
536 8373
536 8337.
three. So the landline is 903 0544,
Mm-hmm.
and the cell is 536 8373 876. We
Oh,
have a new area code now.
it's in effect yet?
Yes, it's that since this month they've started to use it.
Okay. All right. So I'll just place these people. So if you are there, you want to use this number. Where is it now? All right. So those are the numbers, the office number and the cell phone number on the screen. Yes. So we're looking at that, Rev, and trust me, when you talk about the counseling, I my institution use that counseling sessions too as a school.
Yeah,
So I know the importance of it. I know how effective it is as well. People, I can tell you,
yeah.
Linstead Baptist Church, it's a pleasure for me to highlight or to bring about not just Rev here tonight, but the Linstead Baptist Church and their efforts right across the educational spectrum in Jamaica. The way they actually do their thing, it seems like they're a real arm. There's an agent of government or an
God's
agent of
government, God's government.
education. I'm telling you. And I am sure I might be giving some trouble here, but I'm sure over the years, Rev must have gotten a few approaches from the higher heights to come on board. But, with his thing, he has to be selective, right, Rev?
Well, I tell people, I declare my hand. I support any government
Yes.
that is doing what will help to empower the people. I am not one who will be partisan, because I believe, you see, your childhood shapes you. Your childhood shapes you. I grew up in an environment where the prime minister was so humble. He would be driving and he stop and he speaks with you. There were some students who were walking distances from their schools barefooted, and he saw them. And instead of buying shoes for them, he provided a bus for them. When he comes to Jamaica, he's deceased now.
Yes.
Instead of having bodyguards around him and you have a heads of government meeting, he's walking the streets and nobody knows he's the prime minister of a certain country where I was born. And that thing has helped me in serving. That if God gives you the ability to help to empower people, you don't use your position. You are already there. You just serve as Jesus took up the towel and served. So I share that to say, that I don't, you will not tell me I'm green or orange. I represent Jesus. And if you are doing something that will help to empower the people. I've been held hostage at a police station. And by the way, if you want to know the country and the prime minister I'm
I was
talking about,
about to ask.
is Belize and George Cadle Price, the Honorable George Cadle Price.
And
Uh,
that's for which country again?
Belize in Central America.
So
It's twice Jamaica's size. It's a
you have
mainland country.
so you're a dual citizenship, right?
Pardon me?
You have dual citizenship.
Yes, and I'm a citizen of the world. I go anywhere God send me. I've been across the Caribbean. I've served in Panama for 5 years across the Caribbean, and it's a joy to just serve people. To just serve people. Yes,
That's true. So you're just saying that you were held hostage by the police.
at a police station, and the police tell me say I must follow what the politicians say because that's why he got transferred. Things like those. I'm not going to be silent about it. Um, because we have good politicians and we have corrupt politicians.
Of course.
People have come to me, and so I'm not talking off the ear of the bat now. Young men come to me and say I say we have to change the system, and that's why the church must have a prophetic voice. That young man comes and says he gets a certain amount of money from a politician, and I will not name any place. And if we must do it. And I'm glad that he came. Because here is a place that they can come and talk. Sometimes we cuss the young people them, but them can't go to the church because we mix up and they can't trust us.
My God. Wow.
He should be the prophetic voice of the nation, splitting the difference, the conscience of the nation. So I was working with the government at a certain time, um, as an inspector in a certain ministry. And it was a time of national disaster in Jamaica. And so voluntarily, the department I didn't have to be assisting.
Oh,
Voluntarily, I decided to assist. And that was when I saw some of the poverty that people live in because of that disaster. And they vote and they pay their taxes. And so we were assisting, distributing certain benefits to people at a police station. And the transport that took us to the place to distribute, I did not know that the manager of the particular place where I worked, that the transportation was provided by political allegiance. So when we were to depart, in those days, once a certain bus pass, you can't leave. And in those days, night come. I was finished what I was doing, but there was a young lady who was not finished. And we were on our way, And then I don't know if the driver got a call to say from his boss, who was an MP. And him turn back and go back to the police station and say, we're not leaving there till we finish doing what we're doing. No, I could have gone about my business. I said, I have to protect this young lady. So I stayed in the vehicle with her until night come and dark near 10 o'clock, and the people start cursing if them know what they will do with us. But when I got angry is when one of them come push a man through the car. They started rock the car and I said, I'm going to turn it over.
wow.
So I said, people need education. Jamaica needs liberation from political tribalization. Once we give people and feed them and give them handouts, we think we control them. We must educate people to know. And they're educated now, because many of them take the money and don't vote. But what I'm saying is
Really sure I don't vote the other way.
I don't know how them vote, but some of them talk with them one mouth, so them whatever. Some of them vote the other way because them get money. So it
Yes.
happens all kind of ways. But that was just an aside. But the point I'm making is that when they started rocking the car and said them going whatever, all kind of language we don't hold on our clothesline. When one of them push him on through the car window and tell him go and kill me and tell me about my mother. Now, I didn't get angry because he told me about my mother, you know. I got angry because this man tell me say I'm gonna kill me over something that. So I pushed open the car door and I jump out and say, listen, I don't worship any GLP nor PNPs. One man I worship and is God. And I want one of you put your hand on me tonight. And there you could hear a pin drop. And the policeman came to me and said, but you must try and help the politician, you know, and let it not be said you didn't help the MP because that's why I get transferred. And I said, boss, I am not you. I am not paid by any MP, and no MP own me. All I want to do is to go home. And when the MP came and said, so what are you going to do? I said, I've said what I'm going to do. We are not going to stay here. You need to put us in that vehicle and send us home. And that was what happened.
Power of God.
We need to educate people and realize that wherever there's corruption, we must take a stand against it. Because we're afraid. We're afraid. I will not be bought. So I will support anybody. So if you are a PNP and you want to come to the church to talk about something progressive, come. If you are a GLP and you want to come and talk about something progressive that will help the people, come. But when it comes to the corruption and undermining, we will not. That's why you hear me say we fund most of our projects. We do not seek external funding because when we stand to proclaim in that pulpit,
No bias.
nobody shouldn't have any of us in their pockets. And so any preacher who comes to preach, we don't want them go up there go preach no divisive politics or divisive denominationalism. Much preach Jesus Christ who liberates and sets people free. That's our process of education.
True word. People, you hear it because most times, whenever the politicians assist, which they are to do, they want favors in return.
And I can tell you, I've worked with politicians who help us in our community. I said we need a load of marl to fix our road. Him don't have enough money to fix it, but he gives us a truckload of marl and we come. No, I will work with those people.
Of course, because that's,
Work with that.
you see, and maybe a bit too harsh. That's not so much of an assist. That's his job. It's a part of his responsibility.
You know,
So,
we pay our taxes. Yes.
Rev, want to take it down. When we talk about education, what's your view on the status of education in Jamaica now?
As I said, we need proper management of our schools. Um, Boards who are interested in education. Where you have divisive boards and boards that are political footballs, it stagnates the process of education. And whether or not people want to accept it, the realities are there before us. I've been involved in it, so
True.
I know. You see, some simple things that we have to understand that even while we have the boards for 3 years, we have to also make the requisite preparations. It is very difficult to change signatures, for example, at the bank.
Very much so.
So you'll have a person who was sitting on a board who is a signatory, even when two boards have passed,
He's still the signature.
still the signatory and still signing. We need to deal with issues like those because it has to do with accountability. Um, we I would say we don't blame Ministry of Education alone, but we must take a collective response to education. So we talk about the diaspora. Those of you who've been blessed, you ask how many came back and gave thanks. Those of you who've been blessed by your school, your alma mater, the church as we speak about it at Linstead Baptist, is there something you can give back? We speak about the back to school fair. We speak about schools needing equipment, projectors, things like those.
True.
Can we through your old boys or old girls association, don't wait for somebody else. What can you do? Ask what can I do? Because there are simple things, many schools, we're not equal. We are not all equal, and we have to accept that. Though some persons will disagree with me. When you take a system where you rank schools,
And yesterday we talk about equity.
equity, we're not equal. Persons will disagree with me. But when you get a school with G, what we call it now, the exit,
Or
PEP,
the PEP primary exit profile.
and you get a school, you will not get anybody under 80 being sent to that school. But you get another school with 45 and lower, and most of the students who come, you put them there. And you expect them to perform, can't read. You expect them to perform at the same level. You cannot tell me that there's equity. Schools don't have labs.
But it's not just expecting them to perform. They have not given the resources.
That's it. There are schools that are operating on outdated plants, board buildings that are falling down, high schools. And because of where they may be located, the
That,
kind of assistance, so I'm calling on everybody, church, school, everybody must take a collective approach and say, how can we help to transform our schools and work with our schools? Because government alone won't do it. We all have to come together to help. So I call upon those who are members of old boys and past students of different. Sometimes some simple thing a school needed, just a projector, just a computer, volunteer help, mentoring in the schools, because the guidance counselors alone can't do it.
that's so true.
You know, we have boys days and girl days, boys and girls day. These are areas people can. So I'm coming down to the practical nitty gritty things. I remember I went to a school and a boys day. I asked them to tell me, give me a picture of a farmer. What is the picture you think they get of a farmer? They said they gave.
A man with a machete walked about with a donkey.
All right. With a rubber boots. They could not think of a farmer outside of that.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I was farming not the fool, but uh, a particular crop at the time.
Yes.
And I took them, well, with the permission and consent and so on, took a group of them on the farm. So I asked them before we left, do you believe I'm a farmer? No, sir. So I said, why? Look how you dress and the vehicle you drive.
You don't dress for the occasion.
Right. So I took them on the farm itself and explained to them and show them. And I said, think of the McConnells and all of those. They are farmers. Right around you. And explain to them how farming is evolving from just a machete to greenhouses and so on. I'm saying that those who have this kind of knowledge and expertise go in. Yeah, you don't have to wait for a boys' day. Connect with your schools. You never know. You can change one child's life. So sometimes we look at the macro level, but let's start at the micro level. What can I do for my alma mater, wherever that is? Yeah.
And you see, Rev, I don't know, but I am always involved in these lives. But there are so many of us who turned our backs on our alma mater. We don't want to associate ourselves
Yeah.
with our past school. Maybe because we're, as you mentioned, where they are situated,
Yes.
where they are from. I remember going to when I was going to college, I have a bona fide brethren. And listen to me now. I have a bona fide brethren. And we were friends for 2.5 years. When we reached final year, I knew that he was from Moko.
Okay. Mocho.
Listen to me. Every time you ask this man, where are we going to go? Mapen.
Yeah.
Until one day I said, we're in Mapen. And he was saying, I'm going to tell you something, but you have to keep it as a secret. Why I couldn't keep that secret then?
No, you see, that is what mash up the system. That's what mash up the system. You are a beneficiary. Look where you reach. Michael. The Michael. You pronounce it wrong, incorrectly. The Michael.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't go there, but my wife went there. So
And I know.
um,
Wow.
that's the thing. That's the thing, and that's what education should do. Should liberate us. Doesn't matter where you come from. You should be proud. I mean, as I told you, I'm chaplain at Enid Bennett, and one of the things that impressed me is that I think I don't want to get it wrong. I think she was the first female admiral to captain a ship, a U.S. Navy ship in the U.S.
Don't
Can't
know.
remember her name right now, but you know which school she attended? Enid Bennett,
Wow.
and she has come back more than once to give back to her school and to give back to her community. And things like those impress me. You don't forget where you come from
Exactly.
after you reach where you have reached.
So true.
And if more of us remember these things, what a wonderful thing it would be for Jamaica.
I tell you, Rev, I'm telling you, I'm not sure if you have anything else to put across to us tonight. We might have to have a part two. Because we're almost 1 hour and a half, and I really promised that I wouldn't keep it for more than an hour. But people, as you realize, the Linstead Baptist Church, these projects, the leadership of Reverend Shaw could have actually shown you that there's a lot can be done, a lot more to be done to education. I mean, the government alone can't do it, people. The government alone can't do it, but we must also understand the part that every single one of us has to play. Rev, we look at this like latest situation in education, and this is the final one that I'll ask you. Teacher migration. How many
Mhm,
teachers have left our lovely island
mhm.
going abroad for greener grass? Yes, the grass seems to be greener,
Yeah,
but could we have done something better to hold or to ensure that we keep our good teachers here in Jamaica?
yeah. Again, I go right back to what we mentioned. That we might say the government, we might say the ministry, we might say the Ministry of Finance. But again, let's all take a look at it. Look at these top people in this country who've been educated in some of these schools that they would not even want to name. You've reached there.
Yes.
You're part of a private sector group. Apart from what the ministry does, can we negotiate together and say, listen, we want to keep our teachers? I am a beneficiary. What incentives can we give to teachers? Let the government say they can't pay. I won't argue that. It's another space and another time,
Yes.
right? But is it just that we say teachers get enough money? Look how much money the government give them. We have to be practical. We have to be practical. If anybody in this country is to live basic for basic comfort, you can't get under $200,000 a month. We expect teachers to operate at a certain professional level. Many of them go to day some school, they don't even have lunch money. Many of them are single parents. We can't blame their personal situation for their expenses. That's not our business. But the
True.
reality is, many are suffering. And the truth is, money is money. And if you can go somewhere else to get more money, even though you work harder and the conditions may not be as good as here, where you're getting more money that you can do with, you will go.
And make yourself comfortable and
Right.
your family.
So I'm saying, apart from the liquid cash, private, public sector people come together and say, what can we do for our teachers? I know we have some cosmetic things at times. We might reduce a percentage here on loans or so on. But what do the teachers really suffer from? Housing, rent, making housing more available so that they can acquire more by some means. I know some effort has been made. But practically, we need to take a look. When something is not working, we need to ask, what can we do to make it work?
And differently.
And those are the questions I think we all need to sit together in this country. Because again, we can get political with these things. But we must ask, what cost will we place and what value will we place on education? There's no value we can place on education which will be too much. And if we want to know the cost of not educating our people,
Mhm.
look at our crime statistics. Look at our crime statistics. So all the talk we're talking, again, we have to come together. So I'm not blaming anyone, but put our heads together and say, in a reasoned way, how can we help to keep our teachers here, making the environment better? Because the truth is, everybody not equal. Some are struggling in some classrooms, some places where some of them have to travel, and we have to talk about the parents too.
And
Participation of the parents, that's another thing by itself. But I just say this in closing that we have to take everything into account, the socio-economic situations, the social conditions, the statistics. One of the things that drove us at Linstead Baptist to pursue some of the things which we have been doing is using the statistics in this country, crime statistics. In 2006, I came back to Jamaica from Panama to pastor Linstead Baptist Church. And one of the things we sat down and did was to look at the community, the environment.
yes,
Linstead has 35 communities. At that time, Spanish Town was being cleaned up with crime and violence. You know what was happening to the criminals? They were migrating to these communities in Linstead. At the time, the reports from the level of the police that the most dangerous criminals in Jamaica at that time, around that time, were 14-year-olds because of a breakdown in the social system. No fathers, many fathers in prison. So the boys joined the gangs, and the gangs were ripe and growing to get affirmation and value and power where a father figure was absent. A don accept them.
yes,
They were, and we said, if these are the most dangerous criminals, they're not going to school if we don't do something for them. In 10 years' time, they will be the 24-year-olds who will be destroying us. Look at it. Look at Linstead and look at the ages and when the reports are given 24, 34.
yes, between 24 and 35.
Reaping the benefits of not paying attention to family and education. And if we don't pay attention to these things, no strategy of the government will help crime until we begin to educate people. They might become so educated that they become scammers.
And that's a big thing, you know. I
That's
mean,
a big thing.
it's really serious. People know illiterate are so-called, that B word. Can't make it in scamming.
You know. So I just share this. These are my musings, and I have a passion for Jamaica. I love Jamaica. I want better for our
That's
country, our communities, and together I believe we can. Church, school, and community. That was how the old time Jamaica was built up.
right. So far off apart, but the principles or parenting, as I said, that's another story. But you know, as I mentioned that, Rev, and I asked the question because we all grew up in Sunday schools. It doesn't matter where we are. We grew up in Sunday schools or Sabbath schools. But yet still many of us not enforcing that on our children.
Mm,
The schools are the system within the school kind of, they want to divert from such. But we know the principles that will bring. And so we are bearing the fruit, as you mentioned. If we were careful in that 2006, or I say 2000, that period of time, if
right.
we were proactive, then we probably would have saved many lives and saved a lot of people going into the life of crime. But that is what it is, Rev. And I must say to you, I know that yet that last statement was a big one. But I'll give you the opportunity to close the show, Rev. Tell Jamaica and the world how to reach the Lindsay Baptist Church. We know that you have your online platforms and so on. So
All
you
right. The numbers are in the banner below: 903-054-876-536-8373. You can also reach us on 536-8373 on WhatsApp. That's below there.
right.
You can also reach us on Facebook at Linstead Baptist. Linstead Baptist. You can email us at linstead.baptist@yahoo.com. Linstead.baptist@yahoo.com. So whether you want to contribute to any of the programs we have, as mentioned, you need counseling, um, any type of counseling, we are available. We believe in practicing the life of Jesus. He walked where people walked. He met people's needs, and he sought to liberate and empower people. And that's what we, in our own small way, try to do. We've never boasted about this. I think your boss way out tonight.
No man, people need to know. We need to
Yeah,
know.
but we if Jamaica is going to be changed, it is going to take a collective effort. Let's stop the blame game and see how together, whoever we are, wherever we are, church, school, community, politics, it's one Jamaica. Let's fight and live for this one Jamaica in Jesus' name.
Thank you very much. And people, if you want to worship at Linstead Baptist Church, if you are far away, you can do so online as well.
Yes, our services are held begins at 8 a.m. each Sunday morning in person, and you can also join us online on YouTube at Linstead Baptist, our channel at Linstead Baptist, also on Facebook, Linstead Baptist.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rev. It's a pleasure. A hour and a half, very long show. And this is what happened on the Saudi Press show. It is very difficult to close the show because when I get guests like you, we have to make the most of it. It's not easy. You're a busy man. And so I'm thanking you on behalf of our viewers. Let me thank you again for gracing our show tonight. You have added great value to this show, I'm sure. And much so, I'm looking for the feedback from our viewers. Of course, Rev, we will have a part two. We will have a part two.
Well, anytime, anything for progress.
Yes, man. God continue to bless you and your family and also the family of the Linton Baptist Church. So, Howard Godfrey, thank you for joining. Maureen Byfield, Dallas Harris, Manington, and all the others who choose not to participate in the text and so on. Thank you for staying the course with us. And this is where we have to leave you tonight. And I must say, God bless you to all of you.
Thank you.